When we think of international economics, we tend to think of international trade, or the movement of goods over national borders. Trade is a crucial element of international economics, and it allows for goods to be shared worldwide. However, when we look closely at the domestic policies to trade, we notice that there are some protectionary measures taken by governments to protect themselves from incoming cheaper goods. A largely known protectionary measure is known as tariffs, and here's how it works. Let's take two countries as examples, like Vietnam and the United States. Let's say both countries are producing textiles and apparel, and let's place the price of Vietnamese shirts at $10 a shirt. When we observe the US market for apparel, we see that the US supply and US demand places equilibrium at $36 a shirt, with a quantity of 74 million shirts being sold. Now, if the US traded freely with Vietnam, meaning bringing in Vietnamese shirts for $10 a shirt, we see the new supply curve on this graph at $10. What does this do to our situation? Well, we can identify that US domestic industries, or producers, will produce 22 million shirts, and the US consumers will want to purchase 126 million shirts. The difference created by the US producers and consumers is filled by Vietnamese imports to the US, where 104 million Vietnamese shirts will be imported to suffice the US consumers' demand. While consumers are enjoying a much larger consumer surplus, starting from this smaller triangle to a much larger triangle, the producer surplus has shrunk greatly as the triangle has gotten smaller as such. This will upset US industries and they will begin to riot. Protests will shake up the government, and perhaps even lobby groups will be formed to demand for protectionary measures for US domestic apparel industries. This will mean the US government will agree to place a trade barrier, like a tariff. Now, a tariff is, as put simply in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a tax on goods coming into or leaving a country. In this situation, we will consider taxes on goods coming into the US from Vietnam. Let's say the US government decided on a $5 per shirt tariff. This will mean that our Vietnam price line will rise to the $15 line because prices are raised by $5. This will mean that there will be a new US demand alongside a new US supply. US industries will now have more power in the US apparel market and will now be supplying about 32 million shirts, while US demand will fall to about 116 million shirts due to the rise in price. Now the imports from Vietnam will now only be 84 million shirts, which is fewer than the 104 million shirts that the US imported before the tariff. What is the result from the tariff? Well, we recognize that through the tariff, prices have risen. This upsets the demand because now they are demanding fewer shirts than before due to the increased price. But still, the US consumer surplus is still rising from what it would have been when consuming at original equilibrium before trade. The US industries, however, will be happy because they now have more power in the market, for they are selling more shirts than before. But again, their producer surplus is smaller than what it would have been when producing at US equilibrium before trade. However, they are now losing less surplus than what they would have lost through free trade. There is one last element to tariff, and that is the government gains. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods in this case, and this means that the US government will earn money through tariffs. As we see here, Vietnamese imports amount to 84 million shirts, and with tariffs at $5 a shirt, we see the US government will be gaining 5 times 84 million, which amounts to $420 million. So, the benefits of a tariff are that the US government earns money through this trade transaction with Vietnam, and US producers will be able to produce more and have more market power through this protectionary measure. Vietnam will suffer slightly with higher selling prices, but Vietnam will continue to trade with the US because Vietnamese shirts are still selling at that higher price of $15 a shirt. Now, there are methods of lowering tariffs or abolishing them. Currently, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, or TPP, is being discussed by the Obama administration, and that is a free trade agreement among Pacific countries and the US. Essentially, the TPP will drop tariffs and bring Vietnamese shirt prices back down to its original price at free trade. However, the US government is still determining that for now, and the US consumers will still be enjoying $15 shirts that include the tariff from Vietnam. That is how tariffs work in a short amount of time. I hope this helps you understand tariffs, and I hope you enjoyed this video.